Now, the KVTA local and national news.
President Trump delivers his State of the Union address on Capitol Hill tonight. ABC's Karen Travers at the White House with a preview.
The theme of tonight's State of the Union, choosing greatness. The White House says President Trump will focus on presenting an inspiring vision of American greatness and a call for bipartisanship in a divided Congress. But that message may be a challenge with the new House Democratic majority seated in front of him and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi seated right behind him. The president will focus a portion of his speech on immigration and border security, but it's unclear if he'll declare a national emergency in order to shift funds for a border wall. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
The investigation continues into that airplane crash in Yorba Linda that killed 5 people, including the pilot of the airplane, the twin-engine Cessna that broke apart over the skies over that town and came flaming down to the ground where part of it struck a home and killed 4 people in the home. We get more from ABC's Matt Gutman.
That plane bursting like a meteoroid above Southern California in freefall before erupting in flames. Residents ducking plane parts raining down on their neighborhood.
I look up and I just see debris flying everywhere, and part of the plane flew down into the garage like a torpedo and just hit the garage and blew up.
Multiple homes damaged from the wreckage, propellers scattered on lawns, windows shattered. 5 people killed in the crash, the pilot a retired Chicago police officer, and those 4 family members inside that home attending a Super Bowl party.
If Virginia's governor resigns over a racist photo in his college yearbook, Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax would take his place, but now there are accusations against him. ABC's Andy Field has that story.
As soon as Virginia Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax discovered he might take the state's top job, a story surfaced claiming sexual misconduct more than 14 years ago. Fairfax's response?
The Washington Post made the decision not to run the story because it is false, because it is uncorroborated.
Lieutenant Governor Fairfax says it's a political smear to prevent him from becoming Virginia's only second African-American governor if Ralph Northam steps down. Andy Field, ABC News, Richmond.
Jurors in the drug trafficking trial of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman are expected to start their second day of deliberations this morning after hearing about 200 hours of testimony from more than 50 witnesses. ABC's Maggie Rulli reports from the federal courthouse in Brooklyn.
The anonymous 7 women and 5 men will decide whether the 61-year-old notorious Mexican crime boss is guilty of trafficking hundreds of thousands of pounds of drugs, money laundering, and conspiracy to murder a number of his rivals. Jurors are sifting through a mountain of evidence, pages of witness testimony, a multitude of text messages, recorded calls, and handwritten letters that prosecutors say prove Guzman was the chief of the brutal Sinaloa cartel.
What's the busiest airport in the United States? ABC's Daria Albinger has that story.
The FAA says Chicago's O'Hare International was the nation's busiest airport in 2018, with more than 903,000 arrivals and departures, surpassing Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson for the first time in 4 years. O'Hare's operations increased 4.2% last year, compared to 1.8% in Atlanta, much of that in Chicago coming from United, adding more flights to its hub to smaller cities across the Midwest. Rounding out the top 5, Los Angeles International or LAX, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Denver International. Daria Albinger, ABC News.
Ventura County emergency response officials continue to assess the damage and clean up from issues related to the recent round of storms. Kevin McGowan's manager of the Ventura County Sheriff's Office of Emergency Services and tells KVTA News homes in multiple areas that were impacted by water and mud.
So even areas that were outside of the burn areas still got significant intense rain for short periods of time that led to nuisance flooding, street closures, and some residential property flooding, but no significant life safety threat.
The storms caused issues with several roadways, including Highway 33 north of Ojai, which was shut down and still is. The Pacific Coast Highway that was impacted by mud and debris flows, it's open. A large rock slid onto Highway 150 at the Denison Grade east of Ojai on Monday morning. Required closure there. It's still closed. Other issues included downed trees and power lines that caused blackouts. Ventura is expected, its design review committee is expected to approve a sign program for a new Church of Scientology building that's going to require a variance from the normal zoning rules. The church has purchased a two-story office building on the 2100 block of Alessandro Drive, just north of Seaward Avenue, that's visible from the 101 freeway. Associate Planner Tim Rosenstein tells KVTA News that only one sign would be allowed on that building normally, but Scientology officials are asking permission to install 7 on the building and one freestanding monument sign.
There's one on the small sign on the east facade, just over the entry. Then there's text, one line of text on the south facade, and then 5 symbols on the south facade, and then the one monument sign.
Rosenstein says sign variances like the one Scientology officials are asking for are relatively common in Ventura, and it's expected to win approval from the DRC at tomorrow night's meeting. The building will be used as a church after renovations are completed. Rich Gualano, Newstalk 1590 KVTA.